So first, we're going to go through a little meditation exercise with you, and then we'll lead into your presentation.
Yep, so I thought I would introduce myself. We could do a quick meditation, and then I'll go through my presentation. How does that sound?
Great.
Okay, cool. My name's Kelly. You will also sometimes see my name as Karuna. I answer to both. And I started Mind Oasis, and just quickly, I wanted to let you know that I was not born into a family of meditators. I was born into a family of beer drinkers and Packer fans. So I fell into meditation about a decade ago and found myself a good teacher. And last year, I engaged in a month-long, 30-day silent solo meditation retreat out in the mountains in Arizona. And from that time, I found two things. I discovered at least two things. One is that when you get quiet and alone with your mind for 30 days, you realize kind of how nuts you are. And secondly, there is this quietude that happens, and from that comes a lot of creativity. And that's where Mind Oasis was born. So I thought what we could do is we could do a 3-minute meditation, and we'll use silence as sort of our focus. And then I'll tell you all about Mind Oasis. How does that sound? Cool. All right. Well, when we meditate, we can certainly have our eyes open or closed. And if you're going to have your eyes open, you're going to just find a spot, maybe 2 to 3 feet in front of you. And you allow your eyes to come soft into the sockets. And so you're focusing, but softly. And since we're all in chairs, we notice that our feet are firm to the ground. And we notice our sits bones rooting into our chair. So a lot of meditation is about noticing. And from this place of stability, you feel your spine rise up nice and straight with your crown reaching towards the sky. And then a final point of posture is we tuck our chin just ever so slightly to elongate the back of our neck. And your palms can be planted down or up on your thighs, or together, perhaps resting one palm on the other in your lap. And if you spend a lot of time looking at things like a computer, I would actually invite you to close your eyes. And then we just take a moment to check in and notice. And we can notice a lot of different things. You might have a little annoyance, like, why the hell am I meditating? Curiosity, or maybe a little appreciation for quietude. And so we'll sit for 2 minutes quietly. And you'll hear sounds and you'll have thoughts. And when that happens, you just come back to the curiosity around the quiet. And then you can find your breath, perhaps taking a nice cleansing breath, beginning to come back into the space, and Just noticing if there's any shift in you. There may not be. But there may be. So 30 days I did that by myself in silence. And Mind Oasis was born. So, please.
Before we start, tell us about like the purpose, the design. What is the presentation designed to do?
So we are a nonprofit, and so this particular presentation, depending on your background, what we're looking for are partnerships. That could be a corporate partnership in the form of a sponsorship. It could be foundational support. It could be a donor, and any other sort of corporate partnership in the sense that we can bring what we do into your business as a part of your wellness package. So really think partnership. And if you're not real familiar with a for-profit versus nonprofit model, you can think of almost as if you would be an investor. Okay?
And the type of feedback you'd like from us?
Well, I think the most important thing is, does what we do resonate for you as a potential partner? So even if you're not a potential partner, if you're thinking in that way, what I present to you, does it resonate? Is that cool?
Totally.
Okay, awesome. So my presentation is long and I'm going to talk quickly. It's the only thing I could do, okay? So I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions. So, Mind Oasis, our mission is to bring the timeless benefits of meditation to practitioners worldwide via live, interactive online classes. And what does that mean? It means that when you hop online to meditate with Mind Oasis, there's a live human being, sometimes it's me, and we will guide you through a meditation. And I'll get into the particulars around that. So why do we exist? If you haven't noticed, people are stressed out. And this can go anywhere on the rheostat of life, from little things like if you got cut off this morning in traffic, or maybe your partner didn't do something you asked them to do, your kid was a little annoying or slow this morning, all the way to people like Anthony Bourdain, Kate Spade, and your prior Robin Williams, who seemingly had the world by the tail, but somehow through depression, anxiety, and stress decided to take their life. So there's a broad spectrum of stress that we're experiencing. Why meditate? Well, we have Joy here, who's been meditating for like 60 years and is 89 and kicking it. So, right here is a wonderful example. But we experience stress, anxiety, depression, isolation, and there's a whole lot of science. I brought you a handout that you can take a peek at that backs up that meditation and mindfulness practices have been shown to help. Why meditate together? Kind of seems like a solo sport, right? Meditation. Because community is a really potent antidote. This is why we go to sporting events. This is why we go to churches. This is why we practice yoga together. It's the same can be said about meditation practices. And this is actually a picture of what it looks like on your computer when you meditate online with us. So how are we different from other meditation apps? Joy was just sharing that she's been doing a meditation with Oprah and Deepak Chopra. It's a 20-day recorded meditation. The way that we're different from Headspace, Calm, Insight Timer, you guys might be familiar with that, we are actually interactive. And I think that that's the important part of understanding what we do. You hop online, there's a teacher there, we interact with you, there's other students interacting with you from across the United States and sometimes outside in other countries as well. So why meditate online? Kind of seems weird, like wouldn't you go into a studio? One, you guys are in Boulder, there's meditation opportunities all over the place, but if you take a road trip, lots of places across the nation and the world where that simply isn't true. Also, sometimes you have dogs, you have kids, you have partners. The last thing you want to do is leave them in order to go do another activity and then come back home. So the idea is that you can meditate with other people in community online. And then the battle of traffic in Denver and Austin, Texas, where I also live, is a reason in and of itself not to leave your house. So I'm going to stall out for just a moment on our programs because I think it's important for you we are kind of different than what other people out there are doing. And I think it's important that you understand exactly what we do. So I like to think of us as having a stool, and we have 3 legs to the stool of what we offer. The first is fee-based meditation classes. So on Thursdays, I have a group of 5 to 7 students. They hop online with me. They're in North, down in Austin, out on the East Coast, West Coast. We come together, I do a teaching around, right now we're doing something on a philosophy of the Four Noble Truths. We spend 20 minutes with me teaching, 20 minutes meditating together, and 20 minutes discussing life and things around that. So that's one part of what we do. The other part of what we do is we have a free membership program. It's called Meditate on the 8s. And 17 times a week, you can hop online, and there's a live teacher there, and you can drop into a meditation class. So Monday through Friday, you can hop on 3 times a day, and on the weekends, once on Saturday and once on Sunday. And those classes are live, and they're free for anyone to join. We ask you for your first name, last name, email, and to confirm that you're not a robot, and you hop on, and there you are. So the reason that that's important from the perspective of a corporate partnership, this is actually our conversion tool. It's how we serve the community, right? We're a nonprofit, so we were given that status from the IRS to provide a service. And it's also, though, the way that we are moving people from our free membership into our pay model. And the third leg of the partnership has to do with universities, vets, teachers, and corporations. I'm sad, there's usually a vet here who he isn't here today. I wanted to talk with him. So Colorado Mountain College is a really great example. We're talking with them. They're very interested in partnering with Mind Oasis to bring a program to their students that they can drop into once a week, and then to use Meditate on the 8s as an extra support throughout the week. Another university, University of Texas Austin, University of Nevada Reno, and Seton Hall out of New Jersey are all interested in forming partnerships with us to bring meditation to stressed out college students in a platform that resonates because they like the online platform. So we also have a woman who's coming on who worked with vets for the past 8 years out of the VA to deliver programs for vets. Sometimes they don't want to go into a hippie hoo-ha sort of yoga studio, and so the fact that they can participate in meditation from their own home is very appealing. And then teachers, public school teachers, and again, corporations through like a wellness program.
Can I ask a quick question?
Please.
So that picture, those are all the people that are online with the?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so why the heck would you partner with Mind Oasis? 1, technology for good. The reason that people go on Facebook and other social media platforms is because they're craving connection. Like, they want to connect with other people. But I don't know about you, but I see some of the stuff my auntie posts, and I'm just like, good God. And so you end up in some ways sometimes feeling more anxious and actually further isolation. What we're doing is different. We're really bringing people together. It's live interaction. You tend to be more real when, so there's more authentic connection. 2, right now we don't have any direct competition. To Joy's point, she's online with Deepak and Oprah, but that is a one-way street, and that's what meditation apps are as well. They are guiding you and they are telling you something. That is very useful and it has a wonderful place in this world, but what we're trying to do is not just offer meditation that's guided, but also to bring together community and to break down barriers, and we desperately need that in this world. 3, user base has a global reach. So if you are a company and you're trying to get in front of people that are intergenerational, regional, all different ages, et cetera, et cetera.
Why don't I turn it off?
I think you're okay. Our user base has a global reach. So I think that's exciting and we're growing really
Isn't
fast.
that off?
Go back. Yeah. Pretty soon.
I'm
Sorry.
thinking we're going to come back to the slides, so I'm going to gloss over it. Basically, we've been in existence for 7 months. And we've had 45 of those classes or series. We've had over 250 meditators. We've had over 400 meditators join us on our drop-in program since May 1st. We've got over 1,000 people interested in what we're doing, so we're moving quickly. No time to really get into the projections here, but let's just say that we're growing. And the reason that I have college students, vets, and school teachers down here is because those programs are in the works. They're not yet moving. The numbers up here are based on actual, meaning we've taken and extended out what we're currently doing for those years. So I would expect by 2020 this to be closer to 10,000 plus. So, what does this all mean money-wise? Our budget is just under $300,000 for this year. We're calling this a pilot program year. $163,000 of that are in-kind donations. From whom? Myself and our Director of Operations and our IT guru. Everything we've done so far, we've donated our time for. $45,000 projected in donations. You can see up here what we've raised to date. It's actually up to $12,000 as of yesterday. And then we've collected just under $20,000 in program fees. We expect that to be up to $45,000 by the end of the year. So what are we looking for? What would help us? We need about $27,000 in sponsorship partnership in order for us to make our budget and to do what we do, which is bring meditation to folks. By next year, our budget is going up to just under $500,000, and in 2020, it's over $500,000. And this is the last slide, and I'll just end here. So we like to say that the evolution of meditation is here, and that Mind Oasis is bringing it to you. And the reason that I love this slide is because if you look in the upper left-hand corner, this gentleman, which I use that term loosely, is in a United Airlines flight calling in to Mind Oasis for a meditate on the 8th class. And while it is my husband, it was his idea, and I just love the fact that we had someone flying from Denver to New York, and he joined a meditation class. If that's not evolutionary, I'm not sure what is.
Exactly.
So, thank you.
Well done.
Thanks.
In this one slide, who's the leader?
I think I actually taught that class. So it would be me up here. And you can do, so our platform is Zoom. Do you guys use Zoom? Yeah. So, you can do different things, like you have different views. If you want to be able to see all of the people you're meditating with. If you don't want people to see you, so if you're in your pajamas, which happens for sure, you can do that. There's a lot of different options. You can go on mute so people don't hear what's going on in the background, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, Ian?
So I'm Ian. I'm a VC finance and M&A attorney here in Boulder. I have some questions.
Okay.
The biggest one is, why a nonprofit?
My
What's the
background
choice?
is, I've been a director of development, or, do you guys want me up? I'll be up, okay.
Whatever works for you.
My background is that I've been a director of development or executive director for a nonprofit for the last 12 years plus. And I've managed budgets from $250,000 to $13 million. And what we do is providing a service. So the for-profit model would work, but a nonprofit model allows us to take the profits that we make and put it back into the cause and back into the users and back into the teachers and pay them fair wages.
Okay.
So the reason that one receives their 501c3 status from the IRS is because you're fulfilling a societal need. That's true. There's no reason to argue that. That's the reason that any 501c3 receives their status. And then at the end of the year, we file something called a 990. And on our 990, we report back what it is we have accomplished towards our mission. And our mission is to bring the timeless benefits of meditation to practitioners worldwide. So we're considered an educational entity delivering a service.
Okay, maybe I'll clarify. Why a nonprofit? So I get the structural mechanics, but right, as you set out and you say, I'm gonna launch a thing, and I'm gonna bring a benefit. What you do with the money that you produce is sort of up to you as the business owner or nonprofit owner. So if you had a for-profit or a nonprofit, what I'm getting at is, for me, my question is, with most nonprofits that I think of curing cancer, helping orphans, helping the homeless. Like,
Yep.
I would say, God, this is a big problem. There's no way to solve this problem profitably, right? You can't profit from helping homeless people. So we as a society I'm gonna write a check and say like, all right, Salvation Army, here's some money. I don't generally walk around and say, Jesus, no one's meditating. Like, this is a big societal problem. I wish more people would meditate. Can I pay for that? And so I'm just curious, like, how does that decision play out? Not the structural, like, how do you get a 501c, not what I don't care about that part, but like, as you think about it, like, so for example, if this product was helping the homeless, I wouldn't see your customer here, because your customer's out having problems. But on this screen, I see customers. I see people who are consuming your product, and they're the ones that you're looking eye to eye. And there's like an asshole part of you if you like charge a homeless person for the soup. So like you can't do that. But here, like I'm just curious, like why are these people not paying you a fee? Why aren't they funding your business? What's the part of here that made you decide nonprofit was the right way to bring meditation to these 9?
Yeah. Okay, so I think you had 3 questions that are in there.
The last one's the most important. Like,
I'll try
why
to
aren't they
unpack
paying?
it. Well, some people are paying. So you'll remember we have a stool and we have 3 legs. Okay? So the people who are paying for a class much like what Deepak and Oprah are bringing. But it's a different teacher. It's me, it's a different teacher. People pay us. We have a 6-week, 8-week series. It averages out to about $15 a user. And that is where you see program fees, right? And so even for a homeless program or the Salvation Army, there will be some kind of program fees, okay? The people who can't afford to pay are using Meditate on the 8s. And there is no reason that homeless people can't use Meditate on the 8s.
They have an iPhone.
There's shelters. And shelters can partner with Mind Oasis. So for example, I was talking with a group out of Michigan that helps children who are survivors of sexual abuse. And those kiddos have parents, and those parents are stressed the fuck out. Okay, pardon my French. And so we are partnering with them to bring free programs to those parents who already are suffering from terrible stigma, that they can come online and meditate with us for free for the user. But we partner with the organization and receive a small donation from them, like $10 a user. So some of our programs are free and some of our programs aren't free. And that's true for any nonprofit, okay? And then I think going back to, well, I write a check to help the homeless and you're not running around seeing people who need to meditate. Let me ask you this, are you running around seeing people who are stressed out, anxious, etc.?
Maybe.
Okay, because it costs, according to a Gallup poll, the United States $400+ billion in lost revenue in businesses each year from unhappy, stressed out, anxious employees.
Okay.
So there's a ton of people who are actually stressed out and could benefit if they incorporate meditation as a tool in their life. And that's where we come in, because we make it really easy for you. We make it affordable, and we make it accessible.
Okay. There's a lot in there that I think you can work with. But those parts didn't come through. So my question was, why nonprofit? I don't know if I got an answer, but I at least hear what you're saying. My feedback then is, go look through the people who have pitched at 1 Million Cups in the past year, and there have been a couple that have pitched on problems around like recruiting and retaining employees, and they're attacking the same problem that you just brought up, which is like stressed employees who aren't in a good fit and are having a problem, like big benefit lost, big cost to the government, to the people. It's this sort of tragedy of commons like problem that you're trying to solve. Go find those people and talk to them, because I think that there's potential here, and I think that you have just articulated some problems that you can attack, but they didn't come through. I, as a donor, am not interested in donating. Not because there's not something there, but because the presentation, the package, the, like, what's the value to me, how am I doing it, am I the right customer? I would think about that, and your last part here of the problem, that's the type of problem that government agencies can get interested in. Or that, like, but again, like, I personally, and I'm not as altruistic as some, I don't care if businesses are losing $400 billion a year in revenue. I don't give a fuck, whatever.
Right, so let
But
me ask you.
I, as the, VA, might.
Mhm.
So,
Can I just, before you guys, I just wanna address one other thing you brought up, because I think it's important and other people probably have the same question. So, when you make a sponsorship, that is not a tax deduction. You receive 1.5 times the value in advertising with that nonprofit. So, I'm sorry that that wasn't clear, but like, for example, let's take the Olympics. The Olympics are a nonprofit, okay, the USOC. Did I say that right? You know what I mean. Coca-Cola, let's say they pay $100 million for that sponsorship. They receive back $150 million in advertising opportunity. That is not a tax deductible contribution.
Sure.
Because you receive something in exchange.
sure.
So actually, what maybe I should have done is not said anything about donations, because really what I'm looking for is I'm looking for companies who want to get in front of people who are meditating.
Customers is what you call those people.
Which one? The company?
Those people, yeah, call them customers.
You mean our users?
No, the people who you want sponsored. Like you're,
That's what they're thinking.
yeah, all I'm trying to say is I think you're getting wrapped around, like, business model and structure are two separate things. You can be a nonprofit with any number of business models, you can be a for-profit with any number of
Sure.
business models. This presentation focused really heavily on your structure.
Mhm.
Drop that, no one cares. Doesn't matter, whether you're for-profit or nonprofit, it doesn't change how's the business model here work. What you do with the proceeds of the business model, like fine, nonprofit, profit, like, okay, great. Maybe that's part of the pitch, maybe it's not. But the part here that didn't come through is how do you get money? What do you do with the money to make it turn into more money? Whether you take that more money and turn it back into like giving to the public, or whether you take that and put it in your pocket, that's where the for-profit, nonprofit comes in. But the engine doesn't work like in either of those unless you like make the engine work. So make the engine work and then talk about what you do with the energy,
Okay,
right? And I'm gonna shut up.
thanks.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Jason, yeah, going back to the nonprofit, for-profit split, the corporate sponsorships, it seems like there's a real problem these companies have, like employees being stressed out, and just like they pay for massages,
Mhm.
gym memberships, it seems like they would be willing to pay a fair price
Mhm.
for this type of service, meaning that's like a viable, profitable business. If those are the type of sponsors you're looking for, those are then, customers that are, paying quite a bit for that. What I was curious more about is why, you brought up children a few times, but you're talking about their parents or their teachers.
Mhm.
And I heard someone else who had a similar nonprofit talk about like going into schools and doing this for the kids.
Mhm.
And it seems like as a nonprofit service that there really wouldn't be a market for are, kids that don't have jobs, they can't afford to do this, but they're really in need of this type of thing. And the earlier in life you would do this, the more coping mechanisms you have, the less likely you would be to cope with stress, with much more negative things. So I'm just wondering why I would think this program would give more benefit to children or going around to schools and offering it, kids have recess, whatever, but like why not throw in, 5-minute mindfulness for kids?
They do.
And yeah, but you didn't mention, like, I think.
No, we don't, that's not what she's saying.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I
What
think
she's
that.
saying is that exists.
Sure, but it's not, it might exist in a tiny part of the country, but
I
certainly not nearly enough of it. I never had that in my school. I haven't heard this widespread in schools, and I would think as a societal need, there's much more of that, because, adults, people know that, mindfulness is not completely unknown, there's not enough of it happening, but I think adults, are aware, they are paying for it, some of them that are aware of it. Kids don't have unless they have a parent that's really into it, they don't have a chance.
Yeah.
I mean, unless someone goes,
So I think your question is, why aren't we targeting children? Is that the question?
yeah, part of it.
Okay, great. So we actually are partnering with a school district just outside of Austin, Texas called Leander. And one of our teachers, Lacey, is introducing a mindfulness toolbox into classrooms. And the way that she's doing that is she's become an approved vendor. And so 45 elementary school teachers the second week of August will be trained by Lacey in these different sorts of mindfulness modalities. And as part of that, the teachers will receive access to meditate on the 8s so that they can continue to work on their own meditation and mindfulness practice. So what I think Joy was getting at is that there are people who are very specialized in the types of meditation and mindfulness that you bring to children, and certainly they would be doing that in the classroom, not online. And what makes us different is we may do some retreats and things like that, but we're really an online meditation community. So we're not going into classrooms. But we can be your asset for the teachers who are taking mindfulness into their classrooms. So that's the way that we're partnering in that way.
But,
Thank you, that's a great question.
and it seems like some of the classes, like the paid classes, involve part sort of lesson, part meditation, part discussion. So is part of that training, I mean, is there a separate class to train people to guide meditation for others?
Yes.
Or is that, so that's
We have
not,
teacher trainings, sure.
and that's different from the normal class then?
People pay for a teacher training.
Okay, because like, I think personally, like, an attractive, like if you told me we're training all these teachers to deploy this to students, that would be like, oh, that sounds like a really good cause.
Yeah.
As opposed to, yeah, more of the, because the corporate sponsorship thing seems more like, oh yeah, well those companies could, you know, they can just pay for this.
Right, so we're kind of a mix, and it comes back to that three-legged stool. Yeah.
And I think that's part of the problem. I think I would segment your market, really segment and hone in and dive into one segment first. Because right now I'm like, well, you only have 1,000 users.
We're 7 months old.
I understand that.
Mhm.
That's good that you have 1,000.
I was thinking
But if you
so.
want me to give you money for advertising to the 1,000 individual consumers, that doesn't excite me.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you segment it, and I really like the Jason, is that your name? I like what Jason said about the kids. I mean, I understand you don't go into classrooms, but you don't have to. I've been doing a lot of research on Gen Z, and they're the we generation. They're not the me generation that millennials are, so that might be a good segment for you to look into. If you're really targeting homeless and veterans, then I would really focus on that segment and understand how much money that can bring you, or you know what size is that market? Is it really a good size? Is it a really good segment for you to talk about? And you know, that's my problem with this is what it seems like you want to do corporate, and that's awesome, and you'll get a lot of money from them, I think. But then on the other side, you know, the veterans and the homeless. And then on the AIDS, I don't understand.
What does that mean? Tell me what you mean by that.
Well, okay, so our homeless shelter, I think, is closed from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So when you say on the 8s, I'm like, so to me,
So we tailor our programs.
we have
for
weather
our
on the
partners.
8s, right? So when I think of the 8s, I think of 408, you know, anything with an 8 in it, but you only offer it 3 times a day, so I don't,
Now. Yeah.
okay, but
Yeah.
maybe I would call it something else. But
Okay.
just because it's not really on the 8s, right?
It is. It's at 8:08 a.m., 12:08 p.m., and 8:08 p.m. Central Time, 3 times a day.
Okay, but still, you know the Weather Channel has
That's
on,
why
on the
it's-
8s.
Right, it's on
right,
the 8s. That
but
is why
it's-
we do that. It was a play on the word.
Okay, but for me, I guess I say because you're targeting an individual, or maybe you're targeting homeless shelters for it, but I don't understand, so you want the homeless shelters then to pay you? You know what I mean, it's not a sexy segment, you know, for you to start your business. You know, I would pick something, you know, that
Well, what about the 18,000 kids that go to Colorado Mountain College? Is that sexy enough?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so that's a partnership that we're entering into as a pilot program. And that is one aspect of what we're doing. And so when we're looking
Yeah.
at this sponsorship, it's specifically for Meditate on the 8s, okay? And that is a support to the university students, and it's a support also to...
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So then focus on the college students, you know, just go
Yeah.
there and fight for that, fight for your position
Yeah,
with college
okay,
students.
great, thank you.
You know, is what I
Thanks.
Rick?
So I have two comments. One is, if you go back through your slides, there's a lot of text. And you're a good speaker. The text subtracts from you. And your pictures are great. I would strongly suggest you lose the text.
Okay.
And then the eyes are on you, we're not trying to read the text. And you say exactly what's in the text so we get it. Right? And the pictures are more impactful because they're big. Right? So that's just one. Also, there's the slide on revenues is all numbers. And what we know from human factors is people don't understand numbers, but they understand curves and graphs. So if you could...
I have a curve and graph, we
It'd
went
be
back
so
and
much-
forth. Okay, okay, that's good feedback.
Yeah. The other is, I really agree with Ian on the 501c3. It gets in the way of your message. If you want to talk about it, at the very end, okay, but really what, it would grab me a lot more strongly, and I'm Rick, I'm a local entrepreneur, investor, donor. What I always look for when people like you get up is there value being delivered? And what value is that, and does that value talk to me? And you completely missed me. And my wife's a mindfulness teacher in Boulder Valley School District, so, you know, are we doing this because, absolutely, she teaches teachers and how to incorporate it into the classroom, and here in the Denver metro area, I think that it's really starting to pick up. So the awareness of what you do is growing, especially the schools and the kids are bringing it home, so the parents would be great potential customers. But you didn't talk, or if you did, I missed it, on the true value of what you do. And if you want to talk to a corporate customer, right, so you'd be talking to me, I want to know what you're going to do with respect to things I care about in my employees. Performance, how often they show up to work, do they pay attention to the right things? Are we modifying the culture in the right way? You know, you can have this incredibly rich presentation to say, mindfulness is or meditation is a really key piece of modifying your culture and getting a healthier, happier, you know, more productive workforce where you have better retention. There's a strong message there, and I didn't get that at all, right? And that would be the reason I'd be like, whoa, I really should look into this, man. That's valuable to me, especially with the millennial culture that's coming up, where it's really hard to retain those youngsters. They want to move. They don't have any allegiances. It's starting to become an economy that you don't look to retire in the company you start in, right? So it's a huge problem for companies to make people happy and retain them. I think if you went there, you'd have this tremendous value, and there are some interesting studies on what that's worth.
Yeah, I know.
And
it's interesting
it's a shocking amount
because
of money.
I think I had about 3 different presentations, and this is the presentation that we settled on. But I did have another presentation that emphasized a little bit more around this huge problem and how it actually costs companies a lot of money.
Yep.
So that's one direction we can go.
The math on retention and turnover is shocking, how expensive it is. And this what you're talking about is proven to help that, and it can be monetized. Right. So if you wanted to make you say, this is the value to the business, and I can quantify it, and look at how small an amount of money you have to pay me to make a substantial difference. Anyway, I think focusing on value and losing the whole 501c3 would really make you a lot more attractive to donors and investors and customers.
All right.
So I think you can make a lot of those claims, but I would be very skeptical. My name's Mike, I'm an entrepreneur and patent attorney. I would be very skeptical unless I saw a very strong connection between why your product in particular can achieve these results, and especially why it can achieve it better than something like Oprah can. And from getting into your presentation, you mentioned that the difference is the interaction. But what I really need from the presentation is why that difference is critical to achieving the results that you're going to claim for your customers, either the business or the users. So, you know, you have these customers, businesses, you know, people who are paying the fees. You're going to claim that you're going to achieve some great benefit for them. There's some sort of, exchange. You're providing them something, they give you something. And why is it worth their time or money more than your competitor? That's what I don't really get yet. You kind of mention that you have this interaction, but I'm not convinced yet that the interactive mode of meditation is going to be sort of like the killer app compared to regular meditation.
Is there a question in there?
Nope. I phrased it as a statement, but you
Okay,
can
all
respond
right.
to it.
I just wanted to make sure, because I wanted to make sure I hadn't missed it. So what I'm sitting here thinking is, maybe would it have been helpful to understand the demographic of meditators? No. Because they make a lot of money, they're highly educated. No?
Maybe, but what you say that these people like community, but I just don't see, I kind of just don't get what the community is adding to it yet. And maybe it's kind of like, I go into more like, okay, we have this class, we have a meditation, and then we talk. And what are we talking to each other? You say there's a two-way street, but like, what does that look like? What is that talk? What do people talk about? Is it wide open? Is it guided? What does it add to the meditation? And I don't really right now have a picture of what the two-way street looks like or feels like.
So here's, it was a statement, and so I guess I'll just give you my feedback from what I'm hearing. And I think I knew this to be true, and that is, you know, companies like Salesforce, they bring in Thich Nhat Hanh and his monks every year. They do a lot of mindfulness summits, et cetera, right? And I kind of made this presentation for, in general, am I still doing okay because you keep looking at your watch?
Sorry, I have an interview with a person in 5 minutes. So
Got it, okay, I'll wrap it up.
No, you've got it. No one else has to leave, I just have to slip out.
And so, I think in a way that what we do, our potential sponsors, is a very specific slice of the business pie. Because a lot of your questions and your comments, and I'm gonna say, not yours, because I really heard what you were saying, but it almost is like, if you don't really get meditation and you don't really get the community part, we're probably not even on the same, like, plane, and I don't think that I can convince you. So, like, my feedback is a little bit of...
You might, and you need to,
And I have to jump in and exercise moderator privilege here and say, there's a very important thing to keep in mind in this room, and I think in general. Be very careful about getting defensive or
I'm not really being defensive.
Hang on. Or pushing back on somebody's feedback.
Okay.
Right? The goal of feedback is not to convince, it's to listen and then adjust. And what I'm trying to, this is a discussion I have with my son a lot. There's no such thing as a wrong feeling. So you can't ever say, no, you don't feel like that. You just have to listen and say, okay, why do you feel like that? What is it? So, I think the interaction here, and I don't want you to undersell yourself, it's not, there are people out there who just don't get it, and they're not gonna get it, and I can't convince them. It's how do I convince them? What is it, like, what's the, so, and that's also a really important statement from your side, if 90% of the population is unconvincible, like, you need to take a step back and think, like, does this even make sense? Is my market 10% of the universe, and how do I find them? How do I sell them, like, et cetera, but I don't think that's right. I think you can sell to 90%. You just have to
think like, what does the 90% want to see?
Mhm.
How would they look at this and spot value?
Mhm.
And be very careful, like a lot of founders who are very close to their product can get defensive, and I'm not saying you're being defensive in this moment, I'm just saying they can get defensive about their idea, and they can write off, these people just don't get it. As like I work with one particular client who like, I swear to God I want to choke him every time I talk to him, because I'm like, dude, you can't keep telling me, this investor just didn't get it. If every investor just doesn't get it, something's wrong with the way you're presenting it.
Right,
So, be careful of falling into that trap.
okay, I appreciate that feedback.
And if you start with the problem and you look out into the audience, you look into our audience, and you say, do people have this problem that I'm gonna solve? And I can tell you, I don't know, I know some of the people in this room. Everybody I know's got stress issues and needs to take time to settle their mind and all those things that you're talking about. So whether or not they know about your solution, that becomes the challenge. If you're talking to a crowd that doesn't have the problem, you're done, right?
Right.
But if they have the problem, then you've got to find the path to making
Right.
them see what you do as a valuable option to address the problem.
Right.
And I think one of the questions that at least I'm asking myself is, you know, what do you do that really convinces me that that's true? And you talked about the online thing, and I'm like, yeah, I don't connect that right now. I mean, if that's what you're hinging the problem to solution connection on, you have to do a better job of convincing me that the online part is the value delivery. And I don't think it is. I think if you think hard about what you do, it might be the diversity in the audiences, it might be the diversity in the teachers, it might be so many things that you can do because you use online. But online in itself is no value to me, right? Unless it was, I can do it anytime I want, or I don't know, right? I mean, you gotta give me something else. So there's something really important in this. You've gotta do some more work to really connect the dots.